Indianapolis Colts quarterback Daniel Jones leads the NFL in yards per attempt and is leading a top 3 offense in the league. Is this sustainable? Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you all for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. This is your daily podcast covering your Indianapolis Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your first bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Hello, everyone. My name is Zach Hicks, your resident film nerd of HorseshoeHuddle.com, and I'm joined today by Ben Boris at Colts Film Room. You guys know him and you love him over there on social media. You can also find some of his work over on StampedeBlue.com, a place that's near and dear to my heart from back in the day as well. We are here diving all into Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones, his hot start through 2 games. And look, I think we can confidently say it's not, even if it regresses a little bit from here, it's not a fluke because he just did it against the Denver Broncos. So, whatever you had to say after week 1 with a bad Miami Dolphins team, it carried over against the Denver Broncos. So we're feeling good, feeling confident. To start off today's show, we're going to dive into all the positives, what's getting us excited about Daniel Jones and this offense. We're going to dive into some popular narratives and see if we can buy or sell on some of those. And then to close out the show, we'll talk about some areas where this can still even get better for the Colts team. But Ben, we have to dive into these positives. And yeah, the stats are absolutely insane right now with Daniel Jones, second in the NFL in passing yards, number 1 in yards per attempt, which is always a metric that he's been in the bottom 10 of the NFL across his whole career. He is playing some outstanding football. Completion percentage at 71%. Every single number and metric looks great for Daniel Jones. What are you loving that you're seeing from him so far?
Yeah, well, I think it kind of started from the preseason, but he kind of carried it really into the regular season. I think obviously everyone had a little bit of a question mark around, okay, this is the Miami Dolphins. They had some bad vibes heading into the year. What is this going to look like versus the Broncos? And it looked really good. I think what's been working for them is obviously being successful on third down. I think they were 75% on conversion rate, which is really good. I think that they've just to use some of the cliches that Shane Steichen was using is finding completions on the football field. I think they're finding ways to get the ball to Tyler Warren. The run game looks great. And I mean, we were just talking about it before we hit record, but this offense just looks totally different compared to anything that we've seen since Shane Steichen has been here in the best way possible. So I think I'm really excited to see how this kind of evolves throughout the year, what they find works, what they find doesn't work. And I think you can say that Daniel Jones is playing really confident football right now.
Yeah, and I think the first thing that I put in my notes every time I watch him these last 2 weeks is just his command and confidence controlling this offense through these 2 games. I mean, if you're looking at how they're operating from the heavy motion usage to the dummy counts and the hard counts that they're utilizing a lot, trying to get defenses to expose their hand and give those pre-snap tells. And I think what we're really seeing from Jones is a player who's going into each snap very confident with what's going to work. There was a stat that went out there. It was from Fantasy Points HQ, I think is what it was, that said he had a 97% throw to his first read rate in week 2. Now, again, that can be a little up and down from where it actually is, but I totally believe it's close to that because he was getting such a tell in the pre-snap going into each play that he didn't really have to look at second and third reads. He honestly also didn't really have time because they were getting blitzed like crazy. But I think we are seeing a player that's so confident. And I think this also leads to, he's always been a quarterback that struggled against pressure in the blitz. And that's why these first 2 weeks, teams have been throwing the kitchen sink at him to see if
defensive coordinators will look at it.
Right. Yeah. They're seeing his pressure numbers throughout his career and they're saying, oh, he struggles with this. We're going to throw everything we have at him. But because he's getting such a clear read pre-snap, he's not overthinking things. He's not panicking. He's just evading the pressure when he has to and getting it to the guy that he already read pre-snap. I see Josh Downs is on an island with a 2-way go against an off corner that just traveled with him. I know that when the second he breaks out, that corner's not going to be near him. So Jones is just so far ahead mentally right now and has so much command over this offense that we're seeing him operate at a very, very high level on each of these 2 Sundays that we've seen.
It's interesting because the Dolphins and the Broncos kind of took really unique approaches to defending Jones. They both sent a ton of pressure, but the Broncos will play more match and man coverage behind it, where the Dolphins are going to be more zone heavy. And it's interesting because they basically said, hey, we saw what you did versus Miami. We're going to make you throw into tight windows versus our sticky man coverage in a muddy pocket because we trust our pass rush. And Daniel Jones did that. Like, we were just talking about the key 3rd and 6. Now, obviously, the end of clock management is what it is, but that 3rd and 6, like in midfield on the ball to Pierce, I think it was on the shallow, like Benito is almost there for a maybe a strip sack, and he's just really confident. And I think it's one, trusting your offensive line. I thought the one thing that was really important is the guard play that he was going to get compared to what he had maybe in New York. I think that it's really tough for a quarterback when you have a 3 technique that is just in your face in the A gap and trying to play quarterback like that. And I think, I know you've talked about it a bunch, but obviously having Quentin Nelson, Bortolini, and Gonzalez play how they've played in the first 2 weeks, I think has been really important for them, because even if you get a Benito coming off the edge, you can step up, you can make a play. It's obviously not in your direct line of vision. So I think him playing as well as he has under pressure has been probably the biggest reason that the Colts are performing the way that they have.
Yeah, and also Jonathan Taylor being so great in pass protection, which is the weirdest development of all time. Is he's when he's the insert blocker on a blitzing linebacker, he's meeting them at the offensive line, not meeting them 3 or 4 yards in the backfield, and he's just been fantastic in that regard. So you're seeing the protection hold up. Even if it's not perfect, they are winning ugly and giving Daniel Jones the time that he needs, and he's delivering. So credit to them, but also, again, credit to Daniel Jones for when the pocket has been muddy, he has still trusted his guys getting open. So we are seeing, again, just this perfect meld of Jones knows what's coming pre-snap. He's confident post-snap because of what he's seeing pre-snap and is getting the ball out. And then the couple opportunities where we're seeing where Jones has to extend a play, has to get away from a sack, he's generally done a pretty good job at it. Even the sack he took on Sunday, I think he could have got to Warren I think he could have gotten back to Warren. It was tough because he had scat protection. He wanted to get it to the running back, saw the running back was covered up. And by the time he wanted to get back to Warren, he got sacked. But we've only seen 2 of those moments through 2 weeks, and he didn't make the situation worse by fumbling or make the situation worse by trying to throw it out of those sacks. So I think we are seeing safe, productive quarterback play. And at the end of the day, the biggest thing, their success rate is really high because they're always moving forward. They have continually moved forward on every play. They're the best first down team in football right now. I think they're like top 5 in second down play right now as well. They are continually moving forward. And as a result, their average third down is like 3rd and 3, like 3rd and 4. And you keep those teams in that guessing run or pass at every single situation. And when you have Jonathan Taylor behind you, that is so key to keeping teams in that situation. So it's like Steichen and Jones knew exactly what they needed to make this project work. And they are doing it at a very, very high level through 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's really interesting, and that's all been awesome, I think the motion part of it is huge, but I also think the diverse personnel groupings they've got.
Oh my gosh.
There's been a real 13 personnel package, which is crazy to say. They went 13 personnel empty, which means they are basically asking, they're trusting Tyler Warren to basically be a receiver in a 12 personnel offense. And it's really been cool to see. They're finding ways to get A.D. Mitchell the ball in 12 personnel. They're motioning Ashton Doolin like crazy on some of these. It's really, I think the confidence that Jones has played in has really opened up some of the creativity that I don't want to say that wasn't there in the past, but they just when a play caller and an offensive staff can get in front of a whiteboard and draw something up and say, yeah, I trust our guys to go be able to do it, they're going to be able to do cool things. So I think Jones has been a really big part of that. And I think the, play point guard narrative sometimes gets over talked about, but because some of these throws aren't just passing, just like the first pass a point guard would make, but he's distributing the ball to his playmakers. He's been really accurate in the short and intermediate parts of the field.
Yeah, and the ball is just moving forward. But I love what you said about the personnel usage, because we look at Shane Steichen last year. I think the Colts, each of the last 2 years, I think they were in the top 5 and 11 personnel usage with Richardson, with Minshew even, with Flacco even. But this year, again, we're seeing so much more 12 personnel, 13 personnel. We're seeing Warren in the backfield, which, it depends on how you want to clock that. If that's a 21 personnel for you, 22 personnel, or if it falls into that 12 or 13 bundle for you. But again, we are seeing just the usage of like more tight ends, more diverse tight ends. And we're seeing these tight ends play at a better level this year because Warren clearly defined them. Now Mo Alley Cox looks like a really good tight end because he's tight end too, mostly blocking, getting an occasional throw to the flat where he's turning a 2-yard gain into a 15-yard gain because nobody can tackle him. I love the personnel usage. I love the way that this offense is performing. And as a result, again, they're a top 3 offense in football right now behind just a surgical passing game, But guys, coming up, we are going to transition this conversation into some popular narratives. Like, is this sustainable? Is Daniel Jones legit? Do the Colts have a chance at the division because of it? We're going to talk about all of this in our second segment today. But first, Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than just simply move. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details, and Mazda brings the same intention to how they craft every single model. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Nappa leather upholstery. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. And guys, most people can't name their financial accounts or even know what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, and get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. It's vital for me, guys, because when I actually see the money leaving my account with a really clean interface, it kind of tells me I got to chill with some of my spending and get back. And it even helps me spot a few subscriptions that I haven't been using in years. I really should stop paying for those. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL. All right, Locked On Colts Everydayers, we are back, joined by Ben Boris at Colts Film Room. Again, you guys know him and love him from social medias here. We're talking all about Daniel Jones and this Colts team's hot start on offense right now. And Ben, the big way I want to start this second segment, where we're talking about popular narratives and just buying or selling, is the regression factor of this, because you and I are not crazy when it comes to this. We're not going to say the Colts are going to go all year with no punts, no turnovers on offense, no bad games. They're going to average 500 yards a game the whole year. We're not going to say that, because that would be insane. Even Josh Allen's Bills and Lamar Jackson's Ravens are not going to do that kind of stuff. But when it comes to regression, I think I'm kind of buying them being a top 10 to 12 offense as long as core pieces stay healthy. Again, the team that gets brought up a lot is the New Orleans Saints last year. Derek Carr and that Saints team were scoring like crazy the first 2 weeks, and then they fell off a cliff. Well, their whole offensive line got hurt. Their running back room got hurt. The receiver room got hurt. Carr got hurt, and they were down to just backups. So, yeah, if that happens to the Colts, sure, they will regress to a bottom 10 offense. But as it stands right now, Ben, I don't really see a path for this offense to fall like completely on its face in its current build. What do you think of that, though?
Yeah, I think that's the Saints narrative, I think, is really popular just because, hey, it's a team we didn't expect to be very good throughout the year. And then they randomly look great. And then this is the Saints. And I think moving the goalposts for a team and wanting to see more, I think, is also fair. I mean, the Colts haven't played a road game yet. So I think it's kind of lame to come on here and say, I don't want to stamp anything, because, I think the reality is that this league can change so fast. I think we both were kind of saying there's going to be a game where the Colts offense does have a stinker. It doesn't look that great. You always hit that kind of wall at some point in the NFL season. But I agree with you. I think that this team right now is really hard to defend. And it's hard to defend because they have a bunch of guys that they can get the ball to, and they can feel really confident that the quarterback's going to get it there quickly and efficiently. And then I think the other part is, like, you have a really, really good run game. And I think that's been good to take the pressure. Like, we haven't seen the Daniel Jones have to really be a hero yet. And I think maybe if you want to get to the part of where this is going to be sustainable, that comes into the conversation. But if they can continue to be in this kind of manageable downs and distances every single Sunday, then yeah, they're going to be a really good offense.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing for me when it comes to sustainability is like, yes, you can look at past examples of where this kind of start did peter off with other teams. But when it comes to this Colts team, they have the core ingredients to make something really good, where their offensive line, I think at worst, we can agree is going to be solid this year. Even if Bortolini and Gonsalves hit a wall, which they probably will at some point, I think they're going to be perfectly fine on the offensive line unless the injuries pile up. Running back, Jonathan Taylor's having the best year of his career so far. And even if that takes a step back, he's still Jonathan Taylor. Like, even the threat of him opens things up. And then we look at the wide receiver room, their ability to rotate 5 guys out there that can all get open and do specific tasks for you is something that most teams can't match. Oh, and then Tyler Warren, who is just this mismatch nightmare that you can move across the offense. So I don't see this falling out completely. I think that there's just enough there to where even if Daniel Jones gets into some bad habits this season, it's still going to be a good enough offense because Shane Steichen's just working with a guy who operates his offense pretty well, and they have a lot of weapons that are making plays. There will be some bad moments, but overall, I think this is going to be a good team on the offensive side of the football. The next thing here, Ben, and this is where you and I can really get into the nerdy stuff. They've been crazy high on motion rate right now. And I really want to open the floor just to our conversation on motion. Do you think this is something they can sustain all year, keeping the motion rate high? We saw last year with Richardson, Steichen's motion rate was at 37%. Jones's motion rate with the Giants was typically hovering around 40%. Right now, they're 60+%, around 70% in one of the games. Like, do we think this is sustainable, like leaning on motion pre-snap to kind of get the looks they want?
Yeah, I think part of it is the game plans that they played, but I do think that, because what is it, like 60, 70 right now?
Yeah, it's like 60.8%, I think, right now.
It's really high. And there's some teams, right, that you probably, whatever they defend motion for whatever reason, you don't want to use it, or there's pros and cons to it for sure. But for the most part, there's a lot more pros. And I think that the way that they're using motion right now, man zone tells, they're using it to create traffic. I think the rail route that they've used motion on a bunch of the rail routes where they basically hop to the back, which means if the back is to your left, they just move him to the right. And, he can do that cleanly, but the linebacker has to sort through all this traffic, created some traffic, got JT out free. We saw that a couple times. We've seen they love fast motion, which is more like Josh Downs is going to run as fast as he can across the field into a route concept. You see that with like the Miami Dolphins and some of the McVay offenses as well. That really wasn't part of the offense last year. And I think it could be totally a thing of Daniel Jones prefers a lot of motion. We're going to motion. He thinks he can handle how the defense changes. I think you look at some quarterbacks and some really good quarterbacks too that don't like motion as much. I think Aaron Rodgers is one that came out throughout his career and say he likes to see the picture, loves to check at the line of scrimmage. A lot of times if there's a motion, it becomes harder to do that. You can't play as fast. Tempo is a big part of this offense. So I think that how they're using motion right now is really cool. They're getting free releases for their guys. They're getting guys open off it. I think it was a third down that Josh Downs runs this like sloppy corner where it's like a one-step slant from Pierce and then a sloppy corner on the back. And the nickel has no chance. He's covering this from inside leverage because he has to chase Josh Downs at full speed across the formation. So it's really cool how they're using motion right now. And I can't wait to see how it continues and shifts too. Like they're shifting it all the time.
Yeah, no, that Downs motion was great because they had him doing the speed motion into the bunch set, and that bunch set created natural traffic. And Riley Moss had to chase him from the outside. It's a boundary corner, so he's not even used to the slot corner responsibilities. Chase him from the outside, run to inside leverage, and then it's just a quick corner. And what are you going to do there if you're a corner? You have no chance, especially against Josh Downs. Josh Downs is not going to win in any way, or not going to lose in any way in that kind of situation. That's what, again, the Colts have the guys where it's like they don't have a Jamar Chase who's just going to win every single matchup, but they have guys who can situationally win any matchup. And that's the thing. Like we have Downs, if we can get him one-on-one, in man coverage, it's over. Like it's over. Off coverage, man coverage, it's over. But one more thing I really want to talk about with you, Ben, is the Colts have been just dominant because of their first down success. Their success rate is insanely high this year. Success rate, I think, is above 50% on the year. And on first down, they are by far and away the best first down offense. If you put first and second down together, the best first and second down offense in football as well. Do we think this kind of success rate is sustainable? Their ability to just get positive plays early, because I think this is going to be vital for how good of an offense this can be this year.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think the one interesting thing to kind of go off that is we haven't seen a lot of quarterback run up so far. It's been you've seen a lot of under center run. You've seen some RPO for sure, but the quarterback run isn't the same way. And I wonder when they hit that wall, the runs aren't hitting the same way that they are. And obviously Jonathan Taylor is playing it. And like some of the runs he had is just like, I'm not sure that I think I could count on one hand the amount of people that could make that play. When that happens, you're not running the ball. Like we've seen this team go through lulls, even with Jonathan Taylor, when it comes to running the ball, they're going to find a time where they hit that kind of lull. Are they going to lean on the quarterback run now? Like, because Jones does have that ability. I think part of it is like, you don't want to have the injury is also a real concern. And I think that if they're running the ball the way they are, why are we running Jones? But I'm not even sure how much they had up in the game plan, because it's really not a part of it right now. And I think when you think about keeping this offense on schedule, I just wonder when they turn to that at some point.
Yeah, no, I think that's going to be the biggest thing, is keeping the offense on schedule, moving forward, avoiding penalties, which is going to be tricky with their motion rate and with their RPO rate. It's going to be tough to avoid penalties all year long. To the Colts' credit, so far, when they've been backed up on penalties, they've somehow gotten to 2nd and 3 still. They've been that just says that you're on a heater right now through 2 games. But yeah, as of right now, they're moving everything forward, doing a great job of staying ahead of the sticks. And I do think like the QB run aspect could be big of that. But also I think it is kind of sustainable because you have Jonathan Taylor. Like at the end of the day, Taylor this year too, in particular, has been so good at avoiding negative plays. He said that was a focus of him on the offseason, is making sure he's always falling forward, turning negative 2-yard runs into 2-yard runs, turning 2-yard runs into 6-yard runs. And we've seen that through 2 weeks, and that keeps the offense on schedule. So I think I don't think it's sustainable at the 50+% rate they're at right now, but I think it's sustainable to be like a top 10 success rate offense, top 8 success rate offense. And if they have that with the guys they have on this team, they're going to be able to put up points in most games this year.
Yeah, I think provided they all stay healthy and everything, because I think that's always a part of it when you talk about the Indianapolis Colts.
Right.
But that's been such a key to their success. And I think that's the stuff they've been able to do with the run. And then we were just talking about it, like some of the naked keepers and the movement passes. Like you go through and chart this, and it's like, I don't think I've seen Shane Steichen call the amount of like moving the launch point off of it. They like establishing the run, just obviously it's a cliche, but it opens everything up for him. Like having Tyler Warren there, who is a credible blocker and is blocking his butt off. And then also, now defenses have to honor that and then create that sort of conflict the same way that we're talking about the quarterback run and breeding conflict defenders. So like, it's been really, really fun. And I think we're both really excited to see just how it evolves throughout the year.
Yeah, for sure. But coming up, guys, we're going to talk about some negatives. We're going to be some pessimists now on the show, but not actually. We're going to talk about some areas where, like, if we think some regression is coming with these positive areas, where could we see some negative regression, where some negative areas get better throughout the season? We're going to talk about that here in just a second. But first, the NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your first bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it just fits however I like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you guys ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, Locked On Colts Everydayers, we are back with our big Daniel Jones episode. I'm joined as always by Ben Bohr. Not as always, last year was as always, but I'm joined by Ben Bohr at Colts Film Room. We're going to get Ben back on here more often. We had him on quite a bit last year. This year, we're still trying to find our rhythm here with Locked On Colts early in the season. But let's talk about some negatives, some areas they can get better. And I think the biggest thing we have to start with is the red zone struggles. Now, I had a radio spot this morning where I talked about this in detail, so I have my answer kind of locked and loaded. But Ben, what is your thoughts on just the red zone inefficiency we're seeing from the Colts so far?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things because the offense has performed so well that like now we're like, where's the blind spot of this? Like, where's the weakness? And this has been an issue actually for a long time. Like they have been, I think, the 21st, 22nd ranked red zone offense in scoring percentage, like converting into field goals into touchdowns. And I think eventually that's going to catch up to them. It really does. Like, I think that's something that, like, you look at this personnel and it's almost shocking. Like, my whole thing of like, since I've been on the Tyler Warren train forever is like, hey, we like need someone who is a 6'6", 256-pound guy in the middle of the field to be able to score more touchdowns instead of kick field goals. I think the chip shot field goal is great. It's always great to get points on the board, but I think there's too many missed opportunities that we saw. I think Josh Downs should have had a touchdown early in that game that, you know, I think you tweeted out during the game. It's like the Colts might come back to haunt the Colts. And it really did. If that penalty didn't help, like that's a play you look back and you're like, we got to hit those. But I also think that's a type of thing of like, maybe it's been a 3-year issue with this personnel. And I think it comes down to A, execution, and then B, like not getting yourself into like some of the negative plays in the high red zone, I think just kill them sometimes. And I'm not saying it's necessarily about this year, but just the Shane Steichen era, I think, has killed them. And it just makes it hard to, like, when the space gets tighter, you have a tight window throw. You don't have some of the stuff that they like to do in the middle of the field doesn't necessarily work. Like, and especially obviously with Anthony Richardson, those are different, unique challenges. But I think that's the weakness that we're all looking at.
Yeah, I agree. Our 2 sacks we've seen the Colts give up this year, both have happened in the high red zone. A couple penalties. I think there's been 2 holding penalties in the high red zone, a couple negative runs in the high red. So, yeah, those negative plays that they've been avoiding so well between the 20s, once they get in that high red, we've seen them pile up. And to your point, this was my point on the radio this morning, is like this has been a Steichen issue for years. And like, here's the thing. We can say all we want about Anthony Richardson, right? Anthony Richardson, good and bad, all these things. But there's no excuse you shouldn't have a top 10 red zone offense with Anthony Richardson, because you don't even need to throw the ball with him. You just use the running game.
And it's hilarious too, because they were so good in short yardage.
Yeah.
Like they had all these options on 4th and short, 3rd and short, that they were executing so well in the middle of the field that when they got into the red zone, and I think they're good actually. And I want to look this up after this episode, is like, they're so good in the low red zone. Like when they get in between fives, they're scoring. That's where they're scoring. But I think when drives stall out in that mid to high red zone, that's when things get a little bit tough. So I think that's going to be a point of like that. If you want to look at this and be like, where's the blind spot? Where could this catch up to them? Is like, it almost did. They just have to be able to, get the ball in the paint when they're in the red zone.
Yeah, there's no excuse the game should have been as close as it was because of how often the Colts got to the red zone, where the Broncos punted 3 times and they had an interception. The Colts didn't punt in this game. Or sorry, did they have 1 punt? No, they had 0 punts because they went for it on 2 4th downs and didn't get him. And like, there was no excuse for this game to be as close as it was. The Colts had to settle for so many field goals, and the Broncos converted their opportunities. So that is going to come back to bite them when that success rate, when the quantity of red zone trips starts dropping. You need to convert those into touchdowns. That's going to be a huge part here. And I do think Shane Steichen's play calling is part of it. I think a little bit of it is on Daniel Jones, because if we have one concern, I guess, with him, and I don't know if you share this, Ben, but we haven't seen him really like layer many passes over linebackers yet this year.
Yep.
And I think the Colts are specifically avoiding those because I don't know if he has trust or faith in those throws either. We saw in the preseason there was a couple where he kind of backed off of throws that he could have layered over top of or in between linebackers. So I'm curious if that's like the thought process there, which again calls into question why the Broncos did so much man. But I digress.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think
I
think it's tighter in the red zone though. So it's he's not pushing windows like he should, but I think they just got to run the ball more in the red zone, lean on the run game.
The high red zone. I think that's I think what they're trying to do is take some shots there, because that once you get into that 30, that's when you'd love to push the ball down the field, get you into those situations, because the space is tighter. If you can just get into the low red zone where you feel really good, like that's where that comes into. And then you can obviously the down and distances and the route depth is all part of that as well. But I think that that's really the struggle of this team. I think the other part too is like eventually what's this going to look like in terms of a complementary football perspective when there's a turnover. I think like Daniel Jones obviously has not thrown an interception so far. What's that going to look like complementary wise, and like where does the turnovers come back to get, how do they look after a turnover? I know that like when you're game planning, like that's studies that people will do, like what kind of calls do you call after a turnover, and that type of stuff. So I think that's where that could catch up to them. But like I think it's really hard to kind of like nitpick a team that hasn't punted all year. So
yeah. My only slight other concern, or I guess I can't even call this a concern because it hasn't been a concern through 2 games, but I'm just curious to watch the development because I think in neutral situations, this offense is going to be really good all season. When the run pass threat is there at all times, they're going to be really good. But I'm curious to see what this offense looks like backed up on their own 30, 1 minute left. Run is not an option. Jones has to throw us down the field. Again, late game situation, Jones needs to go down and get us a touchdown to win the game. We have to throw every single one. Can they do that? And I don't think there's been many questions of that so far through 2 games, but I want to see what this offense looks like when run pass is not available. Or maybe like what you said, where the run game is bogged up and they're averaging 2 yards a carry. You still want to keep a defense honest and throw a couple in there, but you're not going to lean on the run game the rest of the game. Can Jones put a passing offense on his back when it's not neutral? That's going to be the biggest question for me. And then also on top of this, I know I'm kind of rambling here, but
no, you're not.
Something we've seen with the first 2 weeks is both these teams have blitzed a lot. How does this offense respond when going forward now, teams are going to rush 4 and they're going to sit back 7. They're going to drop 7 into zone and they're going to dare Jones to push those tighter windows or take checkdowns and have guys have to create after the catch. So can this offense respond to those 2 questions? I think it's the biggest question on how high they can get. I feel really good about the floor being like a top 12 to 15 offense because of their neutral success, but them being a top 10, top 5 offense comes down to those 2 questions. Can Jones lead when the neutral situation is off the table, when it's a pure passing situation? And can they find success when teams are backing off of the blitz and dropping into zones and tightening those windows down the field? I think Jones will throw the ball short, but can they create after the catch in those situations? That'll be a big question for this offense.
Yeah, and I think that's, Bruce Arians put in his book, like the best quarterbacks are good on 3rd down and 2 minute. And like to Jones's credit, he's been good in those areas. That's why we're talking about him the way we're talking about him right now. I think the difference is some of the 2 minute drives or 2 minute situations that they've had. It's kind of been like a 2 minute 45 situation. They've run the ball a little bit more. They've kind of, dink and dunked their way. I'm curious when that 2nd down success does inevitably, things happen in the NFL. Like there's no guaranteed football play ever. So like what happens when you have a drop, you're in a 3rd and long situation we haven't seen, but it's a gotta have it. You gotta have it. I'm really interested to see how that offense responds, especially in, a 4th quarter down, 2 minutes. Like, Jonathan Taylor, obviously we've talked a lot about his pass protection, his ability in the pass game, but there have been times where he's like straight came off the field for like a quarter in those kind of situations. So I think might be a reason that helps them, but it's such a small sample size to truly throw a stamp on anything. So I think there's going to be situations that are truly going to like apply some more pressure. And then, are they going to have to lean on the run game if they're going to, drop 7 more, play too high to try and stop some of these passes over the middle? And then where does Tyler Warren come into play there? So,
yeah, Warren, look, at the end of the day, and maybe this is like just a precursor to a future episode you and I do, but Warren really is the key to everything. I mean, when we talked about it in the draft, you and I did a lot of Tyler Warren episodes prior to the draft and then post-draft and how excited we were about his potential in this offense. But when you talk about the missing piece for an offense, Tyler Warren was so the missing piece for everything. He was like, it was everything in my wildest dreams because I was like, Warren is so great because Steichen will be creative with him because he's such a unicorn of a player. But I didn't think it would be to this level. And it makes life so much easier and I'm not trying to take away things from Daniel Jones. When I say motion is an easy button for him, when I say Tyler Warren's made life easier for him, it's not saying that Jones is doing something easy, but like this offense just complements itself so much better now when you have something like Tyler Warren. He is just so good, man. He's so good.
I know Shane Steichen has a folder on his computer, cool Tyler Warren plays I can't wait to run. And he's already trying it. Like, obviously some of them, not every single one's going to work, but I want them to keep trying. Like obviously they ran the zone read on 4th and short, didn't work. They had another they basically faked a quarterback sneak to him. Like he went to go sneak it, then lines up in fullback, then they run an RPO, doesn't work. Jones scrambled, whatever. But like I want him to keep trying because the fullback sale, which I think we've talked about obviously before we recorded, was incredible. Like I feel like that's just the tip of the iceberg, and there's so much more that we're going to see.
Give me the Q counter sweep that we gave with Richardson last year, but with Warren at quarterback. I'll die happy. I'll die happy this year. It'll be really fun. But one thing I want to answer real quick is Ben mentioned how the conversion to Pierce was like a 3rd and 7. Jones has delivered on those 3rd downs. Got to have it so far through 2 games. It's just, can he continue delivering? Because week 1, I talked about a lot. That was my biggest takeaway from week 1 was him delivering on all those got to have it moments, and that's why the Colts won 33-8. I think Jones has been fantastic in answering pretty much every question so far through 2 games. It's just, can he sustain those moments? Because I think the neutral situations will sustain, but will the 3rd down got to have it sustain? Will the what was the other one I had, which was like the pressure? Yeah, well, all that stuff just kind of sustain for him essentially going forward. But we're running out of time here, guys. We'd love to keep talking for hours because that's what Ben and I do. But we do want to thank you guys for making Locked On Colts your first listen today and every day. The NFL season is finally here. So for your next listen, get a double dose of the Locked On NFL podcast. Tyler, the Madman Roland, gives you a shot of espresso to start your football day, while Tony Wiggins takes you to the barbershop for the smoothest breakdowns to end the day. And find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you guys want to become a Locked On Colts insider, chat us directly and get that insider scoop. Follow the link in our show notes. And make sure you guys are following at Zach Hicks 2, at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and of course at Colts Film Room, all on socials. He does some great work over there. That's why we always have him on the show. Also, subscribe to us on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast. We love your guys' ratings, reviews, and we'll catch you guys back here tomorrow afternoon.